Welcome to ONtrail. Today we have Chris Penasky from Bikepack Adventures. As a bikepacker, Chris has traveled all around the world to over 40 countries, including Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and more. Through his Bikepack Adventure podcast, he and his guests share their travel stories as well as tips, tricks, and techniques to make the most of your adventure. He's with us today to talk about his love of bikepacking, as well as the Canadian Shield Bikepack Adventure Summit in May. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me here.
For us newbies, what is bikepacking?
Yeah, well, I mean, bikepacking is, I think it's really transitioned from what was once bike touring, where, you have that, that mindset. You see a picture in your head and it's a guy on a bike with like really, really heavy bags, kind of slogging it between big cities. And bikepacking is kind of like the trimmed down version of it, where for the most part, people tend to try to get off the main roads and get more off the beaten path. So gravel roads, maybe cutting through some national forests or like provincial parks, national parks, that kind of thing. So it's really getting A to B, but by going past C, D, and E.
For those of us who spend most of our time on single track, can you give us the case for adding bikepacking to our routine?
Yeah, I guess, what is better than riding single track all day, pitching a tent, camping with your buddies, getting up in the morning and doing it again without having to go home? I think that is kind of the thing about bikepacking that makes it so amazing, is that, we have the same love of being in nature and outside, right? And it's sure, I'm not riding the same crazy single tracks you might be, but, with my bikepacking rig, when I went to Mont Tremblant, I stashed my bags off the back of the bike in the woods, and I rode all those single tracks around the mountain, right? Sure, it's a little bit different with the balance and stuff, but I still had probably just as much fun. And then there was a lot of people that are like, whoa, look at this guy. Are you insane? Like, I was like, hey, man, I'm just riding.
What's your history of the sport? How long have you been into it?
When I started the podcast, it was called Bike Tour Adventures. Okay. I had done a couple trips around Southeast Asia while I was teaching there and on my holidays. And finally, on one of the trips, I met a bunch of bicyclists or bike tours. And after, I was just like, man, like, I'm so jealous. They're still riding. I'm looking at their Instagrams and stories, and I'm like, I'm wishing I was still out there. And so that's where I got the idea to start the podcast. It was just kind of a way to interview people that are traveling and share their stories and kind of like live vicariously through their adventures. That slowly transitioned to Bikepack Adventures, not just because bikepacking is way more popular, but my style of riding changed. I stopped, doing so much the A to B and more, like I said, A, C, D, E, and then B kind of.
Right. What's your go-to Ontario bikepacking route?
There's a bunch. On the Bikepack Adventures website, there's between Ontario and Quebec, I think there's at least 40 good multi-day trail like routes I've put up. Some are 800 kilometers long, like the Butter Tart 700, which starts in St. Jacobs. It goes all the way up to Lake Huron, over to, through Wyerton, Meaford, through the Blue Mountains, and you slowly work your way back down. It is actually really good. And I think it's a fantastic mountain bike style one, because the designer of the route, Matt Cady, he likes mountain biking too. And he's integrated lots of single track as you go. So, your day starts 100 kilometers and then you got 5K of single track. Then you get to the ocean another 100 kilometers later, or no, ocean, sorry, the Great Lakes.
Right.
And then slowly, you're just making your way. You have mono hills, you have all kinds of trailheads, and it's pretty fun. And, you don't have to be super exhausted and beat. That's just the way I do it. But, it's a really, really great route. It's down your way. And then there's definitely lots of other routes that are shorter in your 300, 200 kilometer range. You can do in 4 or 5 days with buddies if you want to take it easy, or one day if you want to punish yourself.
I have to stop and pause at the BT 700.
Sure.
How many butter tarts can I expect to have on that route?
Well, that is the challenge. Matt's personal challenge to people is to take lots of pictures with lots of butter tarts.
What inspired you to start the Bikepack Adventures?
My first bike packing trip was exactly what you don't like,
Okay.
which is mostly road. I
Oh.
wanted to do a big trip. I was planning some stuff in Europe, and then COVID happened. So I decided to just pack my bike like I was going to do endurance racing and cycle from Vancouver to Whitehorse and then onwards to Winnipeg. So I did 5,500 kilometers in a month. But whether you call it endurance racing or bike packing, the setup was streamlined. It was light. I definitely didn't have luxuries that you would have if you were, doing traditional bike touring. That was kind of my first real taste of it before I started to really get off-road. But that was so fun, and I enjoyed these massive days on a bike that I had never experienced like that before. I found out about the BT 700, and I raced it in 2021. Finished it in 56 hours. At that time, that was the fastest time.
Oh, congratulations.
For about 2 days. And
a glorious 2 days.
This guy Theo came in a couple days later, having started it after me, and beat it by a couple hours. And I was like,
what goes into designing a good bike packing route?
Well, that's a really tough one. I mean, a good part of it, I guess, is to see these small communities that you wouldn't normally visit if you were cycling A to B, or if you're driving A to B, right? Like, who would go to Otter Lake if they don't have a reason? And like you mentioned, your brother-in-law, but it's beautiful over there. So like, by having a bikepacking route that goes through Otter Lake, now people are checking out some, very unique communities, in my case, throughout Quebec.
Do you have a favorite route you've created, and what makes it special?
I did make the Canadian Shield bikepacking route. I wanted to have a big training ride, and talking with a friend, we kind of plotted something out, and I kind of went nuts with it and ended up with a 400-kilometer route. And then from there, I decided to extend it further, and I said, well, why not make a big route? And so now there's a 900 and an 1,150-kilometer version. And, I think it's just really cool that you can cycle through like Papineau-Labelle Nature Reserve, and, through national parks of Mont Tremblant, places like that. And you enter one side and you kind of roll out the other side, and nobody does that, right? So it's just it's really, really special. And it's also an area, like when you're up in this Western Quebec area, a lot of it is like English speaking communities that date way back. It's just kind of neat to get that feel of how varied Quebec is in this case, because that's where I live. But it's no different when you're, in Southern Ontario and stuff, just to see these small towns that are making it, and they're still there, even though they might not have the prominence they once had.
What's your bucket list bike packing route? Where have you not been to that you have to?
I would love to do the Tour Divide, of course. There's a new route called it's also made by Matt Cady. It's the Great Northern Bikepacking Route.
Okay.
Starts in Victoria, ends in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's 14,000 kilometers long. And he created it because the Trans-Canada Trail is not really a biking route per se, and a lot of it's on pavement. And so he started plotting this thing together, and it is a beast. It's hands down the longest bikepacking route in the world at the moment. And then, of course, there's some of these races that people are signing up for, like the Atlas Mountain Race in Morocco, or the Silk Road Mountain Race in Kyrgyzstan. Would be just phenomenal to have a chance to go and ride those.
That's all great background, fantastic stuff. But we're here to talk about the Canadian Shield Bikepacking Summit. It's coming up in May. Tell us what to expect.
Yeah, so we are going into the 3rd year of the Canadian Shield Bikepacking Summit. When I first created this event, there used to be one in Western Canada. It was called the Bikepacking Summit, I think, or Bikepack Canada Summit. And unfortunately, the creator of the event, a guy by the name of Ryan Corey, who hosted the Bikepack Canada podcast, he passed away. It carried on for a couple more years, and I was like, it was always one of those things. I was moved back to Canada. I was like, I want to go to this thing. And then COVID happened, and it never started up again. So on the tail end of that in 2023, well, it was like 2022, I thought, you know what? We have a lot of great gravel bike trails around this region. Why not make a summit here? Like, let's do a thing to bring people together. I feel like the podcast is really the international thing. It's like how I feel like I give back to the bikepacking community, but then the Canadian Shield Bikepacking Summit is my way of giving back to the local community. I put a ton of work because I'm a perfectionist in that sense. into creating this event. And, we have presenters talking about various bikepacking things. This year, we even have a psychotherapist who's going to talk about mindset and overcoming difficulties and stuff. We've got a unicyclist who bikepacks on a unicycle
Come
coming.
on.
So that's, no, I'm not kidding. This is awesome, right?
Where does he or she store their stuff?
You'll have to
go to the
come to the summit, man. You'll see.
I love it. That's a teaser. I love it.
We have morning rides. We camp at the Vorlage, and so we camp there. We have morning rides. This year we have something new, and it's sponsored by Bevo, but it's the Campfire Stories. So the Quenched Campfire Stories. So we're on the Friday night. We're gonna have some storytelling and stuff, and around the fire, and it's gonna be an all around. It's a great weekend, and I would say probably only 50% of the people have stayed out overnight and camped, have bikepacked. There's a lot of new people who are wanting to learn about it. So I think it's a really good mix of new and experienced, and people just draw off that.
These sorts of events don't happen on their own. Is there anybody we need to give a shout out to?
There are a lot of sponsors this year. I guess people are just realizing how awesome bikepacking is. But one of the bike shops in Ottawa, Quick Cranks, they are donating a Da Vinci Cobain mountain bike. So it's a $2,500 bike.
Nice.
And on top of that, Panorama Cycles, who also sponsors my podcast, they are donating a drop bar mountain bike frame set. As I mentioned, Bevo, Redshift Sports with their suspension stuff, Ride with GPS, Full Cycle, another bike shop in the area. They're donating some gift cards and stuff. Old Man Mountain donating. Tailfin Cycling is donating product. Burt, which is a new company that makes these après bike shoes. They're super light and they're washable, everything. And
that's cool.
They take almost no space and easy, perfect for bike packers. And Ass Savers, so they're donating a bunch of custom fenders. Memento Cycles out of Montreal, so they're a frame builder. They're donating a couple of products and some gift cards. It's not on the Instagram yet, but our Cal out of Montreal, they're donating some bags. 7 Mesh Sports out of Squamish are donating some clothing. And My VeloFit, sorry, they do the online bike fitting. Every single participant will come away with a an enthusiast bike fit.
Love it.
It is hard to put on an event like this, and I probably spent 80% of my time coordinating with sponsors.
Yeah.
But I want people to go away with cool stuff and to be really stoked.
Before we let you go, give us the website, the date, and the location one more time.
Yeah. So the event is on May 23rd, 4th, 5th. And you can find all the details at bikepackadventures.ca/summit. And it'll start on the Friday evening, right around 5-6 p.m. registration, and it'll go until Sunday. At which point we will also have a grand depart for the Canadian Shield bikepacking route.
Sounds like a grand adventure. All the best.
Man.
I wish you all the luck.
Hope to see you there.
Take care. See ya.